The SCL500 is the latest addition to Honda's lineup of 500cc motorcycles. It's inspired by the Scramblers of the 60s and 70s, such as the CL350. But Honda is betting big on this bike in the hopes that it'll be one of the more popular Scramblers on sale today. So, is it good enough to earn that designation? Let's go for a ride and find out. So this Honda SCL 500 actually has a 471cc parallel twin engine. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to figure out exactly how much horsepower it produces, but from looking at other publications, they always claim around 41 to 46 horsepower. Obviously, with that much power, you're not going to be keeping up with something like a Corvette, for example, but it still is enough power for you to get into trouble with the police. However, for everyday city riding, the power and torque of this engine is enough. You can set off from a stoplight without impeding anybody behind you, and on highways it's enough power to get you up to speed or to overtake a slower moving vehicle. Unfortunately, I don't know exactly how many RPMs I'm doing at any given moment because the instrument cluster on this SCL 500 doesn't have a tachometer. It'll display your gear position, your speed, time, and a trip computer, but it doesn't have a tachometer. For me, it's not really a big deal because whenever the engine gets too buzzy, I know to upshift, and when it feels like it's chugging while going up a steep hill, just downshift. But to some, particularly newer riders, it would be a good thing to have a tachometer on this instrument cluster. And speaking of the instrument cluster, in daylight, like how it is right now, it is quite difficult to see. In dusk or at nighttime, it is a little bit easier to see, but right now in direct sunlight, I can barely see what my speed is. Getting back to this powertrain, the engine is paired with a 6-speed manual transmission. The clutch is really light on this bike, but it's actually really easy to use. It doesn't feel like as though I'm over-slipping it whenever I set off from a stop. And also the shifter has a really satisfying click every time you upshift or downshift. And also, I haven't had any issues in getting this transmission into neutral, whether I'm slowly arriving at a stop or the bike is completely stopped. The 2024 SCL 500 has a smallish gas tank at just 12 liters or 3.2 gallons. I managed to average 3.4 liters per 100 kilometers during my time with the motorcycle. Providing the bulk of the braking force is a 310mm front disc with 2 piston calipers. The rear has a single 240mm disc with a single piston caliper. It doesn't take much effort from your fingers to immediately feel the bite of the front caliper on the disc. The brake lever has a firm feel, but you do need to squeeze it a little bit harder at higher speeds in order to slow down the bike. The SCL 500 is equipped with standard ABS, however, it cannot be turned off should you want to when riding on dirt tracks. On more spirited rides, the 2024 Honda SCL 500 is a narrow and nimble scrambler. Its agility is immediately noticeable the moment you take the bike on winding mountain roads. It has a 19-inch front wheel and a 17-inch rear wheel with a 150mm wide tire. The skinny tires provide ample grip on roads, though I never tried to explore the limits of adhesion. The front is supported by 41mm forks with 5.9 inches of travel. The rear has 2 shocks with 5.7 inches of travel. There is some front-end nosedive under heavier braking applications, but the bike stays in control. On highways, the SCL 500 remains stable without much feeling of the bike getting tossed around by crosswinds. Should you want to take this bike over the rough stuff, the soft suspension absorbs rough trails with ease. The tires are not meant for any sort of tough trails, but for light gravel, or in my case, a grass field, they provide enough traction. This parallel twin is a fairly smooth 2-cylinder engine. The vibrations at city RPMs are not too bad in the handlebars, but it does become more buzzy at higher RPMs. The sound it produces is just like any other parallel twin. It's not too loud, but neither is it all that pleasing, at least not to my ears. With the long travel and soft suspension, the Honda SCL 500 can ride over bumps on the road like as though they're not even there. I didn't find myself slowing down for speed humps all that much, and I didn't swerve as often when encountering a pothole. On the move, this is a very comfortable motorcycle. But when you're not moving, like for example when you're stuck in rush hour traffic, this is still a very comfortable motorcycle. Now I am above average in height at 6'4", so that's why I can flat-foot it and not have fully extended legs or anything like that. But even for my above average height, this bike doesn't feel too small. The handlebars are at a comfortable position. It doesn't feel like as though I'm slouching like this. It's much more upright seating position. And my legs don't feel like as though they're up here. They're actually at a very comfortable angle. My minor complaint has to do with the rear brake control. And that is, I don't know, maybe it's my boots or my big feet, but every time I go to use it, the top of my boot is hitting the side of the engine cover. So it makes it a little bit tricky to use. But no such issues on the other side with the shifter. It's perfectly fine. Otherwise, the controls are dead simple on this motorcycle. As I mentioned earlier, the instrument cluster is kind of hard to see in direct sunlight. It's much easier to see in the evenings or at night, and it doesn't have a tachometer. The seat is really comfortable, and that's about it. Overall, a very comfortable motorcycle. In Canada, the SCL 500 is available in this matte laurel green paint as well as matte black. In the United States, it's also available in candy orange. These are about the only options that are available with it, with the others being any accessories that you may want to add on to it. In Canada, the SCL 500 is covered by a 1-year unlimited mileage warranty. You can opt for extended warranty, which starts at $398 Canadian for 1 additional year, and can go up to $898 Canadian for up to 4 years. In the end, it'll cost you about $8,300 Canadian to get your hands on the 2024 Honda SCL 500, and that's roughly in the same ballpark as Honda's other 500cc motorcycles. This is definitely more of an on-road type of bike rather than an off-road type of bike, but it does give riders, especially new riders, a little glimpse into what it's like to be riding off-road without it being too intimidating like the Africa Twin. Overall, I do like this bike, but there are a few tweaks that Honda can make to make it just that much better. In the meantime, if you would like to know more about this 2024 Honda SCL 500, I have a written review with a few more details about it over on my website. You can find that link in the video description or click on the pop-up banner right up there. And as always, I will see you in the next car, truck, motorcycle, but most likely it'll be an SUV next time. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and see you in the next one.